Welcome to Morning Java, brought to you by GetGo Cafe and Markets. I'm Dale Lolley here with Matt Grubba. You can go to GetGo right now and get the breakfast special, which is a hash brown, breakfast sandwich, and coffee. That's a small coffee for $3.99.
Yep, also 2 for $6 croissant sandwiches. They're available all day, so you don't have to limit it to breakfast if you want a big meal later on.
You can always go for a big meal there. Speaking of big meals and big games, Matt, Pitt has one this weekend. Going to North Carolina, coming off the big win against Georgia Tech, a team that was picked ahead of them in the ACC standings.
Right, and first road game of the year for Pitt, so that's going to be the test there. But Pitt now with a golden opportunity to start the season 2-0 in the ACC, which, maybe some people would have predicted that, but certainly it's helping to put that Penn State game far in the rearview mirror if they can stay in first place going into October.
And that's the key thing here now is if they go through their ACC schedule with 1 or 2 losses, nobody's worried about that Penn State loss and how bad it was or what the score was in that game 3 months from now. They're just worried about what bowl are we going to.
Yeah, and Quadriolis and Pitt running back said that right after the Penn State game. He said, hey, we just have to look forward, 11-1, people are going to be pretty happy. People aren't going to say. Now, that's obviously a very optimistic thing to say, but it's the right thing to say. And they know it. I mean, if they go through, make it all the way through, win their division, make it to the championship game, anything can happen in that one-off game. They could end up in a New Year's Bowl. I mean, they beat Clemson 2 years ago. Stranger things have happened.
Matt, we saw Pickett get injured just before halftime of the game against Georgia Tech last week. Is he fully recovered from that? And how big of a scare was that for the coaching staff?
Well, the second part, it was a huge scare for everybody. I mean, you could hear a pin drop in Heinz Field when that happened. Thankfully, he got up. He was up jogging on the sideline before halftime. Half ended up running out before he needed to go on the field again, so he had extra time to rest, recover. Pat Narduzzi talked about it. In practice, all of their quarterbacks wear a knee brace on their plant foot, whether they need it or not. And in games, Kenny Pickett hadn't been wearing it because it just wasn't used to it.
He's a mobile quarterback.
He's a guy who likes to run. But I think now the edict from Pat Narduzzi is I think he wants Kenny Pickett wearing that thing going to Philosophy 101 or whatever his Monday morning class is. He wants that thing on all the time just because he is, kind of, you don't want to say it for a sophomore, but he is kind of the franchise in the sense that, behind them, Ricky Towns unproven at the Division I level. Nick Patty is the third stringer. He's, a true freshman. They don't want to throw them in. I mean, Pickett is probably the positioned quarterback that's the biggest drop-off from starter to the next one for Pitt. And, they don't want to see anything happen to him. So knee brace is going to be on. You can bet on that.
Now, Matt, earlier this week, there's some bad news, I guess, coming surrounding the program a little bit in terms of Alex Officer and his diagnosis with cancer. What's the feeling like? These are guys that have played with him in that locker room.
Yeah, and this, the news sort of came out, went public Tuesday night. The GoFundMe got started that was posted actually by his brother, who was a former Akron football player.
Is his first name Police?
No, actually they have different first and last names, so it's a little confusing. But yeah, it was a sad news it sort of shocked a lot of people, I think, just to hear, here's a guy 22 years old, went as an undrafted free agent to the Raiders this past spring. They released him, and he was in camp briefly with Kansas City. And the Chiefs let him go with a failure to disclose designation with a medical problem, so you wonder if maybe that, was what led to this whole thing. But he was suffering from some knee pain. MRI didn't really pick up anything, so they actually did a biopsy on him, and that's where they found an osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer. The guy, like I said, 22 years old. This is a tough break for him. He's going to have to go through some chemotherapy and some surgery to deal with it. But what's great about it is the way the Pitt family has already been stepping up. Within 24 hours of that GoFundMe being put up, Coach Narduzzi and his family, contributed $5,000 toward it. Some of the other guys, Ryan Lewis, Dorian Johnson, who are in the NFL, former teammates of his from Pitt, they're chipping in money where they can. And even some of the current players, guys who are, on their college per diem, that sort of thing, you see their names popping up on the list, $25, $50 here and there for, people pitching in. It's good to see the Pitt family come together really to help a guy that, was a good player and just a true, Pitt guy when he was there, one of the easy guys to like at Pitt.
So, Matt, this week the Pitt goes down to North Carolina. We talked about this a little bit earlier. We didn't really talk much about the game. The game itself, this Carolina team, well, they're not very good.
Yeah, and they've really struggled out of the gate. This Carolina team's under Larry Fedora have been known for offense. You know, obviously Mitch Trubisky in the NFL now had some successful years with them, but you know, it just hasn't come together. Their team's still going to have 9 guys suspended from the offseason sort of mini scandal, you know, trouble with the guys.
Latest one.
The latest one with, you know, selling team-issued Jordan sneakers, you know, guys selling it, pocketing the cash. That's a big no-no with the NCAA. So, like I said, 9 people, including the guy who was the presumptive starting quarterback, Chaz Surratt, he's not going to be available for another game. So, you know, Carolina's, they've just scuffled. They lost to Cal, lost to East Carolina. That second one being a bit of a shocker, although East Carolina always a strong program.
Yeah, right.
That, you know, as an ACC team, you don't want to be losing to your in-state, you know, non-power conference opponent. So, you know, their wheels are, you know, sort of spinning in neutral. And I think the biggest thing for Pitt is to come out strong and maybe knock off whatever confidence they might have being back at home after the week off because of the hurricane. I think if Pitt jumps out on them, it could really send that Carolina team reeling.
And this is a game Pitt has to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you do the math, when you're looking at, you know, who's up next on the schedule, mostly in the division, when you talk about Pitt has it backloaded. Their last 2 division games are Virginia Tech and Miami, who were picked by a lot of people to be the 2 front runners. They also have a out of division game with Wake there. So Pitt needs to get those wins and sort of be the front runner here and put some meaning into those November games. And at that point, if Pitt's running high on confidence, who knows what could happen.